have to think about capturing every word.
Yes. So tell me, Linda, what would you want to focus on today?
Yeah, it will always be my job search. I have 2 months before I resign, and any insights you can share about someone who has stayed at a job for potentially too long, and yeah, I mean, only in the last week have I kind of given it the time that it probably has deserved for the last 2 years. But I wasn't mentally in a spot where I could make that decision to, I mean, small things like every day I have 3 goals. First one is kind of like take care of the basics. Second is about connecting. And then third is either my job or resting or whatever. And so I moved the job search up from 3 to 2 on my day, or sorry, from 4 to 3 on my daily list of priorities. And even that small shift of like saying this is more important than your paid job, which a lot of people have sort of hinted that's what you're going to have to do in order to actually find a job that's a good fit for you. And I'll say that besides myself, which is, is a barrier in some ways of people in California, people said people are going to not see you as innovative because you work for the government, and people are going to see that you don't really want to leave. And so I feel like so many people have given me the suggestion that you just need to leave so that people think, oh, she's willing to leave because you look more anchored than, and you also don't look innovative that you're not willing to leave. So anyway, so any suggestions, thoughts, I don't know. Or coaching on, you know, I feel like particularly from somebody who doesn't have a long history with me, who can be blunt and say, you need to work harder or something, or work smarter probably, in modern parlance. But why don't you really follow this 2-hour job search? Why are you doing these like why are you not prioritizing the scarier things? Well, duh, the reasons no one prioritizes the scary things, but
Yeah, so I just wanted to
yeah.
understand that a little better. When you said that you wanted to discuss about the job search,
Hmm.
specifically, what about the job search? What is it that you would like to, either get clarity on or address or figure out?
Hmm.
What specifically?
Um, so it seems like it's the convergence of a lot of things over my lifetime that have held me back. Like even the way I show contempt for my coworkers, it shows up in the job search. Like there's a way that, all the kind of class stuff that I haven't resolved. I mean, just a lot of my struggles show up in this thing that I'm so avoidant of it. There's a few things where um, there's a lot of resistance there to give it uh, the time and energy that it will take to do it well. Even my friend Maybelline said that she did 19 interviews with Zoom before they hired her. She was just actually currently laid off from them, but whatever. Like that was even like, oh, Linda, like you're not setting up your life to accommodate that kind of hurdles. You're just sort of expecting, oh, we'll just fall in your lap. So um, maybe it's just saying out loud to you, these are that I really do want to do this and sort of bring that importance up, um, given some of the resistance I have to prioritizing it. Because whenever there's anything real thing that I can do that I can tell will help somebody, it seems like why am I doing this thing that's it comes to my brain as like gambling. Why am I gambling when I could do things for my job or for this community that will move them forward? Um, yeah, even as I skim that assessment, it's like people see me as more of a risk taker than I actually am because strangers are generally easy for me, and that a lot of people define risk taking as interacting with strangers or new situations, and yeah, so I think um, even Kim Scott in Radical Candor talks about rock stars versus superstars. and identifying as more of a rock star as like being good at the thing, grab on and hold on to the thing. And obviously changing jobs is more of a superstar thing. It's like, okay, I'm moving on to this job for maybe even 6 months, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. That has never occurred to me as a good idea. That's and what's helpful is my partner Ken has moved around to a lot of jobs, and particularly by middle of the United States standards, it's too many. What are you doing? He grew up in the military, so he moved around. So, and he also, even as an introvert, is good at talking to people in interviews. I'm good at talking to people in interviews too, but to hear somebody having these very casual conversations, I think it's something men do in some ways in a small field of architecture, versus I'll be more proving myself and saying, you know, answering all those questions, but I have not even prepared those interview questions. So I am, as much as I have a whole pile of stuff and have been coached and talked through leaving my past job and la la la, there's a way in which I'm not really fully going for it because I'm averse to like failing and humiliation and all kinds of stuff.
So would I be right in saying that I sense a level of a certain level of conflict between a realization that you need to do certain things
Mm-hmm.
and actually getting down to doing it?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
And you would like to address that and actually get down to doing it,
Mm-hmm.
whatever needs to be done.
Yep. Yeah, and I think of it as you described it as walking out onto a plank, just like walking out on where it's insecure. Like, why would I do that? Why would I not just start? So many times my mind says, why don't you just work for the post office? Why don't you just walk around and deliver the mail, do something safe? It's like, why would you step out there where you'll have to risk them saying, no, we'd never hire you for this. You don't have enough experience. You've worked for the government. You probably don't know anything. We're gonna have to train you up from zero. So, yeah, and so much of my contempt for people who have pretense, who pretend they are more than they are, shows up a little bit in a way of like of maybe it's just pretense that I actually can do some of these jobs that I haven't done before. So it's like I've put a lot of barriers up to doing these things that now is part of the process. And for good reasons. If you can look it up, you can say definitely I can do that. Your confidence, and training myself up on maybe the skills that I'm lacking as well.
I'm hearing a few separate things, and I just would like to,
Mhm.
uh, you know,
Yeah.
understand from you as to where would you want to focus on, because one, clearly what I talked about, that conflict about that, or that resistance or reluctance to
Hmm.
start acting on what you know you need to do.
Hmm.
The second seems to be also, you mentioned about what type of job would actually be
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
sort of role that you might want to go to. And the second is, I guess, a little bit of a natural concern or anxiety about whether would you be good enough for that role.
Hmm.
Because you have, as you had, I remember you mentioning last time that you had been in this job for 17 years.
Hmm. Yep.
So, so part of it because of that. So out of these three are a little different, some bit of
Hmm.
overlap, but they're also different.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which one would you like to focus on?
So I can remember the first and the last. Um, so conflict, getting down the internal conflict and getting down to the task, and um, it's always interesting what you can remember, what you can't remember, and then lack of confidence that I can do the new. And I, in some ways, the last one interests me a little bit less because I've come to realize it's more about where rather than what. And so I think it will be around community management, something around getting people more connected in organizations, and the campfire thing I'm thinking about doing. So I think my mind goes to that sort of the conflict between, and I don't know how you described it exactly, but that's where it's more of a question mark. It's like that feels like the most upstream thing. If I can, and even I got very imprinted when I first started this particular job with someone saying you're an introvert and an extrovert, and people do not like that. Please choose one to be at work so that people can get a consistent message from you. Um, and same like with coworkers when they see me all excited about my personal life or even people at the job that's not them, they hate that. It's like we can see how warm and friendly you are, but you are not that way with us because we're not your kind of person and you can't fake it. And so you're learning the skills of small talk and like showing them more respect. But there's the class stuff that pits us against each other that I'm still kind of working out where I see my mom, pushing people away or maligning people. So that is sort of the conflict, middle like person raised without resources in a middle class job, not feeling, I hate that imposters thing, but feeling like I don't want to be the kind of person who could do this job well. And sort of like that I think is probably the source of the uh, accepting that part of me that I am trained as a middle class worker, a knowledge worker, all that stuff. Um, and this is what a knowledge worker does. They say, um, you know, I have done well in school. I have gotten these community awards. Even I got an email from the school of public health that had a picture of me in their advertising for the next award nominations. And I thought, well, I wasn't even planning to go to that award nomination because it seemed like, what's the point? They already gave me this award last fall. Why should I show up at this in-person thing? I had no idea. I mean, I would have totally invited my mom if I had known it was going to be a big deal. So that's, I think, uh, any any kind of figuring out how to not let that get in my way. And I have a lifetime, of course, which is a great thing about getting older, of appearance of conformity. All these ways people have said, Linda, stop trying to pick a fight. Like, you're trying to pick a fight because you're trying to resolve an old struggle. Um, yeah. So, um, how can I give more of a consistent message? And maybe even Ben may have said the same thing, like choose one thing. Do not confuse people with like this whole picture of yourself. And I took even at the bottom of my cover letter off Renegade Community Builder because I thought it's too out there for people. Just take that off. And I wonder sometimes too about the MPH after my name. Is that just adding too much? I feel like after a global pandemic, we should all know what that is, but because it's female dominated, we don't. So it's like, should I take that off, even though it's part of what makes me stand out? And you kind of need that in the Google universe of what is, you know, it's easier to find people if if they throw that sort of stuff out there.
Linda,
Hmm.
maybe I'll just
Yeah.
step back a little bit.
Hmm.
Uh, so I hear you say that out of the three things that I mentioned, and I talked about, one is the reluctance to get into action mode. The
Hmm.
second is possibly a lack of clarity about what specific job you might want to, but which you said that it isn't so much of an issue. And the third was a level of anxiety about taking and moving out of a current role and moving into a new role. And
Hmm.
what I hear from you is that you would like to focus on the first one, which is that
Get
getting
into
over
action
that,
mode.
yeah, get into action mode.
Following the advice people haven't even given me, like simplify things, Linda. Do the extra thing. And I also hear Ben in my head saying, send people a video even though they haven't asked for one, because that's the kind of place you want to work. You know, I just made a bunch of connections at this organization, Kudo Board, and I could send them an organization. I could send a video saying, "Hi, I'm Linda. One day I might want to work for your organization. Please keep me in mind if you need a community builder." End
Sure.
of
I'll just
story. Go ahead.
add in a bit. I had one question,
Yeah.
which is how would you know that we have had a good conversation at the end of the hour?
Well, I personally just use a like 1 to 5. How how did how my goal is to get an outside perspective on my situation and feel accountable to you to have made significant progress by next time. So um, if I feel like I have a I will say it will be a 5 if I know by next 2 weeks, this is what I will have done. And I hate to say apply for 50 jobs because it's really about more about make 50 real connections that might lead to jobs. Make, reach out to, there's a process for the 2-hour job search where you're supposed to reach out to people on the schedule. So um, simplify my message. If I had committed to simplify my message and yeah, I mean, I think I could tell if I had made significant progress in the last 2 weeks. So if I have enough direction around what that will look like, I think that would be a 5 for me.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
What might be getting in your way of formulating this plan of action? And
Mhm. I'm kind of going with what my friend Reed said and also Barbara Scherer said. She said, the problem can't be you or money. And so I'm trying not to give the answer of like all my fear of humiliation and all this stuff is holding me back. I think concretely deciding to that that I can with integrity put my job as a lower priority and not sort of do a mediocre job, but like really say, I am leaving my job in 2 months. It's time for me to rip up stuff that it's not feasible for me to do those things in the next 2 months, even if I end up being there for 3 months. So really start um, drawing some lines and saying it's I am going to leave, and yeah. So I kind of lost my question, but it was something about um, simplifying, doing less. That will get that is not my default. I want to generate more options, keep the doors open. That is more.
so, do I understand you right when you say that possibly it could be your sense of commitment to the current role
Mhm.
that is not giving you enough time and energy to focus on actually looking out for a job?
Um, that and the Lean In project. Those are the two things that take a lot of my time. So I think if you were in my shoes, you might even take some time off. Like in the next 2 months, you might say, right after this session, you might say, let me look at my calendar and see what time can I take off so that I have more time for the job search. Or for, why wait until you give notice to then like I could calculate how much time do I have off, like because it will be a lot, not as much as it was been a year ago, but there's a significant amount of time, and then already start blocking out some time so that you can be realistic about how much time you're actually going to put in. Like there's a spring break in April that some people will be off, so that's a natural time to take off. So I would say, and then I've already let people know, that I'm not going to schedule anything extra until May, basically. So
So,
clear out time.
what's stopping you from taking time off?
I only really have one big event that I'm in on May 7th that I care about. Um, yeah, I think maybe the writing will be on the wall when they say, hey, I think Linda's dropping all these hints. She's out of here. Like she's not. I mean, and maybe the meetings are already on the schedule, like saying, oh, sorry, Anne, I've decided I'm going to take that week off. Can we reschedule this meeting? So I guess nothing. It hadn't even occurred to me to take time off. Why not just like try to cram in more?
So,
Um,
if
mm,
you are okay
yeah.
exploring the option of taking time off,
hmm
how much time off would you want to take? A week, 10 days, 2 weeks?
Um, 2 weeks. 2 weeks seems like the maximum I would take, and probably not at the same time. But it seems like, yeah. Um, I almost want to say, um, if I know that I'm going to give notice on the 15th and it could be taking some time off. It's like if I make if I don't go into cleaning up the situation to leave before, because I know it really will just take 1 week. I can get everything ready to be done in a week. That's how long it will take. So I don't really need to do any of that in advance. Um, I think just look at the calendar and see how much clear space there is and start and just say, "Hi, Sam." I could lie and say my mom is having some health issues, which is kind of true, and say I'd like to spend some more time with her to help her. Um, so I hate the idea of lying, but I don't know how I would justify or how I would describe it, but I can figure it out. I mean, I'm for better or worse, I have that ability to be okay with that. I have some things that have come up. I'm focused on, I could just say I'm focusing on some project, which is my job search. And I decided I should take some time off. I've gotten a coach. I realized that I need some time for a project I'm really passionate about in the next few months. So sorry for this late notice. So yeah, I think there's no doubt I will take some time off. It's there's
And would that be 2 weeks at one go, or is it going to be one now and 1 week later, or whenever separated?
I wonder what would be most helpful. I think if it's just little small pieces of time, it's not going to have as big an impact. And I think the sooner it could be, the better it would be useful. Um, um, yeah, I don't know. I think it would.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll possibly come back to it in a bit. Now, assume that you have time,
Mm-hmm.
that work isn't really going to be a roadblock.
Yep.
Lean in work will continue,
Mm-hmm.
but your day job isn't really going to be a, a time cruncher.
Mm-hmm.
How would you ideally like to go about your job search? What's the ideal plan of action that you will put into place?
Um, so the tour job search says start with these organizations and start doing informational interviews. And I've just been reluctant to do that for some reason. It doesn't seem like I just don't have the life experience that that's a good use of my time. Um, um, but I think it makes sense. Where I conflicted with the author, Steve Dalton, is he says if you don't know anyone at the organization, then you deprioritize that. And I feel like that doesn't make any sense. So one of his criteria I don't really agree with. And so it feels like I haven't given it a fair trial. I mean, I like meeting with people. I've crafted the email I would send. Do you have time? I'm interested in blah blah blah. I know how to write that. So, and I don't have a different strategy. I mean, my the default strategy of how I was trained is just look at job postings and make connections and apply for jobs, and then you get this satisfaction of at least there's a real job that I'm applying for. And so even just yesterday applying for a job and the CEO connected with me on LinkedIn. I felt like that's a good sign. When they look at this in HR, they'll say, "Okay, Linda's connected to the CEO." I thought they'll maybe less dismiss me sh in a shorter time, and and that whole thing of feeling like, okay, I didn't just waste my time as well because potentially I have this connection at this company in the future that who knows how it will benefit me or them. Um, so that um, it's some combination. And my friend Solange, she said she did still keep looking at job postings, but it's just that's a lot more concrete, even though he says this is not how people get jobs. Let that go. But it's still hard to let go of that idea that like even one of the jobs I really liked, Path AI, just I saw it through the job. I felt like this was like and someone became my and I can then see who they hire for the job and I get more information about their this is my just anecdotal information that they either hired somebody who had done the exact job or had no experience. It's like I'm neither one of those things. So, okay. So I just need to make more connections. And that then taught me, okay, yeah, connect with that person who has a job. Or my friend Joelle would say, maybe this is helpful to remember, find the job that you want and then talk to the person who hired the person for that job. So I guess I had forgotten that he doesn't really say that. He doesn't say, find the job you want and then talk to the person who hired the person for that job. But that was her recommendation for how I should go about my job search. I've been, I guess I haven't really followed that. Because I mean, it's an awkward thing to say, you know, hi, I'm Linda. Do you have a few minutes to talk about, your experience at the company? And, I'm interested in doing this community manager job that you hired for. Um, can you tell me more about what you're looking for in a position like that? Or, I mean, I have my community builder questions that I'm interested in. So I have questions like, what are the things that really inform the work you do? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I am actually interested in talking to those people, and I think I would learn a lot. And it it's hard for it not to become like, oh my God, I have to find a job in the next 2 months, so I can't like learn and grow in the process. But that's actually not the situation. I'm not in some desperate situation, so um, I could actually do that. It just, not wanting to get too much into the weeds of learning and, being strategic about making sure they get. I mean, I think generally when I do these informational interviews, people get a pretty positive impression of me because I am actually wanting to build community and I do really care what they think and how they've done it. And people, yeah, people have been really generous with their time in general. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may make an observation, you
Yeah.
started by saying that it might be awkward, but as you keep
Hmm.
talking, I could sense a greater degree of comfort with the entire idea about having that sort
Hmm.
of conversation with someone.
Yeah, and if I get clarity that I really do want to find out about their organization, and if someone like me is something, if they have that same desire to um get, well, I guess I don't even care. But I have been told maybe 2 or 3 times, the job that you plan to do is not something they might already have as a job, so you'll have to kind of do it as part of a different job, which is fine. So I guess going into it with more of like, what kind of organization is this? Isn't it an organization that allows for someone like myself to thrive? Um, and I think that it's funny we've gotten this far in the conversation without my saying, I will do better in a more gender balanced workplace. That's just something I know about myself. But my skills are very much in HR, which is mostly female, and also public health, mostly female, healthcare, in some ways, mostly female. And so I do, when I look at these organizations, I do see who works there, and it's like, okay, it's a lot of men. Okay, that will most likely do well, and still I may be within a subset of the organization that's female dominated, but it will still be very different from my current situation.
So, Linda, if I have to ask you
Yeah.
about this entire
Hmm.
plan and say that,
Hmm.
okay, now we are in a space, you're saying that, okay, I am going to get into action mode.
Hmm.
What will be the first thing that you say that needs to be in place? What is the first thing that you will put into place?
Um, so I already keep community building updates every 3 weeks. I write it, and and it's a little awkward because that audience isn't, I can't be completely transparent that I'm looking for a different job with that audience because it's a pretty wide audience. So a place where I could kind of track progress is one of the first things to put in place. So it could be just even on the calendar notes of I mean, I do a daily accountability check-in with Nate with Reed. He changed his name to Reed. So that in some ways I have uh, a place where I'm noticing progress. So that's my first thought is to not get discouraged by having a place where I'm seeing I'm making progress. I mean, I do have a spreadsheet and I do write these accountability check-ins. So, um, but when I did say that the every 3 weeks I write this update, I wondered, is that a good use of my time? it is the kind of stuff I would talk about at a job interview. So I think the answer is yes. But as I just try to think about everything's on the table to take off to free up my time for this process. So the first thing I need to do, obviously, is get more time off. Um, and I think make sure, because everybody knows that it can be a pretty discouraging process, rejection, 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 and fruitlessly reaching out to people who don't respond and all that stuff. I think I'm okay with some of that stuff. So, and I don't know, all roads for me lead back to you have everything you need already. Just notice that you have everything you need. Continue to do meditation. I made a list, it's on this back wall here. Um, Stay out of the panic zone, make it fun, meditate on the joy of the new job, read job descriptions to learn about the organizations, prepare for interviews, informational interviews, and follow up on the outreach. Focus on the high yield activities. So I have this list of like 7 strategies to prioritize, contact, convince. Um, so I guess I'm always a 0-step person. The 0 step is to stay out of the panic zone so that I don't give up and say, the hell with it. Today I just do nothing. Or give myself permission to rest, and then it's easier to then do the work because it's like it's not an obligation. It's just I can tell I'm freely choosing to change my situation. And I think maybe last time I came back to this, like, but it's the letting myself have a better life. It's like, what are some evidence that you're not settling, you're not saying, oh, this job is good enough, and yet not go toward, contempt for the last, so people don't hear, oh, Linda has complete contempt for her coworkers because they don't use AI. Her organization has told her not to use AI. Like, keep the bitterness out of it as well.
Linda, may I ask you a question?
Hmm.
Uh, how do you feel about wanting to move on? Is there a sense of, sometimes I get a sense of guilt that you're leaving this place, or you're
Ab
looking at something?
yeah, absolutely. I feel guilty. Yeah. I wish I wish I wish I didn't bring so much conflict to the workplace. I wish I had more respect for my coworkers. I wish I could make it work. I I don't actually think there's not anything more important than this public health work, but it's not being done. It's not being done in a way that's attracting a wide range of people. Um, I feel loyal to um, the best of the public health workers who are pushing themselves up to, like, even, if I think back on this conversation, like your desire to bring the community together on the water situation, it's like, what could be more important than that? Um, and Yeah, so I think this has been 2 years of like, I want to let myself have a better life, but I'm leaving this work in the hands of people who it's not their priority in life. I feel bad that I'm leaving it in the hands of these people. I wish I had been able to influence them over this time. I wish they had been more receptive to the lean in message and they had become more ambitious. If they had any interest in joining the employee resource group that I've been part of, yeah, they're just, they just are not, it's not in the, very much like my friend David Fay of like, people keep their head down. That's the culture. So, uh, leaving a culture, where there isn't a lot of truth telling. I could give you a million examples and when new people come in and they say, hey, did you notice we've got a lot of part-time workers and how that brings, no one can say it brings down the quality of the work. It brings down the quality of the work. But nobody can say that because it looks kind of disrespectful to these mothers mostly who've decided not to work full time. I mean, it's just like there's a lack of truth telling in that environment. And so that has made it hard to address the real problem because it would mean they have unions, which is great. The unions have served me well. I haven't ever joined them, which is interesting. That's this anyway. So yes, that's some of the unresolved feelings about, even and
Yeah.
actually I'll just say you're asking me that question makes it easier for me to take the time off, because it's like I have this fantasy in my head that in the next 2 months I can like leave things in a place for the new person to more easily, like I could make a document. Here's how to thrive in this job, and like write it all out. And then they could hit the ground running, knowing all this truth that I'm going to spill out for them. You know, that's not going to happen. My Peggy has said, you're not going to have that kind of legacy. They'll take your work and they'll shelve it. And they'll just be like, oh, thank God we don't have to use Zoom anymore because Linda's not here. Yeah. So yeah, it's ongoing process of snip, snip, snip. And that I think you want that. You want people to identify with the job, but there can be a difficulty for them to leave when it's past time for them to go.
Thanks for sharing that, Linda.
You're
I mean,
welcome.
I can sense the feeling of hurt and sadness at leaving a place which you sincerely believe is important, matters
100%,
so
for
much.
sure.
But at the same time,
Yeah,
I also heard you list a lot of rational reasons as to
absolutely.
why you need to make that move.
Absolutely. It is not a place where I am thriving. I got a little glimmer in the last year of thriving, but they are glimmers. They are not, like my friends will say, what if you did this stuff with support? Like, what if it wasn't just undermining and like for example, at a meeting this morning, I said, can I bring the watercolors? We're doing this next thing on art. And they just said, okay, you can do it after the meeting. That's the kind of like, we feel threatened by you. We don't want your thing to be front and center. We don't want you to take up too much airspace. It's like, okay, what can I say except I need to move on. Go ahead.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then I thought we'll
Hmm.
come to this
Yeah,
point a little later, but maybe I think I would ask it right now.
yeah.
When would you want to take the time off?
Pull up the calendar since you're gonna. It's a concrete question. So doing interviews next week. There's a few things the following week. March. So it probably makes sense once the event is done on the 7th. There's a health equity meeting on the 11th. Uh, let's say the first, so March 11th. Yeah, there's a meeting. There's a few meetings on the following week. So maybe with a week in between. Um, the week of the 11th, the week of the 25th um, of March.
So March 11th and March 25th.
The week of March 11th, the week
Yeah.
of March 25th, and then was it no, it's not the first week. The first week in April is even more clear. And I have a training on the 7th. So that is another possible. So I could see how much time do I have, and then Sam is gone on the week of the 8th. So there's 4 possible weeks, and then the following week is the 15th is when I'm gonna give notice. So as those 4 weeks, I could say I'm gonna work 20 hours, if or or anyway, I could just basically say I'd like as much time off as possible.
Yeah, I was wondering as to where did that 20 hours come from? We were
So,
talking about.
yeah, yeah, and so I'll figure out what is my rate, but yeah, um,
So when would you plan to speak to your manager about it? At least the
Oh,
first.
yeah, I can send it this morning. She's used to my working weird hours. So, hi, Sam. I just talked with my coach. I'd like to take some time off to focus on my project. These are the 4 weeks that that I'd like to work reduced hours. Do you have any problem with that? She'll say no. Yeah.
So Linda, reduced hours, or are you planning to take the whole time off?
It feels like it's easier for her to say yes because I'm I'm uh, I'm pretty good at work-life integration. I don't mind stepping away from what I'm doing to just handle some work stuff. So yeah, I think and it's less of a red flag, I think, to her if it's just reduced hours. It's, you know, like why didn't you figure this out sooner if you're taking all this time off? So yeah.
With your permission, may I,
Yeah.
may,
Yeah, go ahead.
may I challenge you on that?
Please. Yeah.
What's the harm in taking the first week off?
Yeah. There's no harm in doing it. Yep. Yep. Yes. I can do that. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, so yeah, because I can put in the following week after the event, which is on a Thursday. I can just do all the cleanup on Friday, um, and then take the following week off. And then
So
go ahead.
that's the week of March 11th, right?
Right.
8th, I think you said, is the event.
Yes. 7th, yes. Yeah, 8th,
7th,
I'll do the
okay.
cleanup.
Yeah.
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 Yep. Yeah, that's
So 11th is the week that you will take
yeah,
the whole week
March.
off.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're sort of just used to my like there's a health equity event, there's a meeting with a director. I sort of play a key role at those two meetings. So um it's possible that is a mistake, that's not actually a meeting. So it's and that meeting is recorded. So you're right. There's no reason I can't take that week off now that I look at it.
So would you plan to send a mail to Sam about it now?
Yep. Yeah, I will do that. And I would like to at the same time tell her I'm also would like to take off time on the week of the 25th. There's a networking group, but that's so will you still attend this networking event? I think in that case it will be yes, I will. Uh, yeah. And anyway, it gets a little tricky around um, for me. Yeah, my coworkers like to have that clear work-life separation, and I'm generally okay with like stop by, give my unique contribution before I don't want to leave things in kind of and just add unnecessary stress when there's no reason for it.
How do you feel about this decision of sending the mail to Sam saying that you'll be taking these 2 weeks off?
Um, um, it definitely will free up some time for these informational interviews, so that will be helpful.
How do you feel about it now?
Um, I think I will feel good once it's on my calendar. So um, maybe it's, I guess, reluctant. Like I will do it, but um, that's sort of the all or nothing. Like I have actually all 4 weeks that I'm looking at, and it's like the first week off, reduced hours the other 3 weeks. What would keep me from saying I'm taking those other weeks off as well? Like why not just say you're also going to be out those weeks? Especially the first week is before the facilitator training. So in the past, I even have taken times off for that one. Um, yeah. Um, And the week she's off, she doesn't care for sure. There's nothing important that will happen that week. Well, she actually might come to some meetings in that week. So I think what makes sense, huh, yeah. Hmm. It's it's awkward. Like if you were in this spot, like what would you say in that email? I've decided I need some time off on these 4 weeks. I want to completely take this week off and I want to work reduced hours these other 3 weeks and then just not give any sort of reason, right? Like this is my request. I would like to work reduced hours. Oh, hi, Linda, what's going on? Oh, I just have some projects I'm working on. Just be vague and like, right? Just I have some personal projects I want to work on. Yeah.
How do you feel about that? The way you just put it, that I have a few personal projects to work on. I need some time off. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, yes. Yeah. Um, yeah, I will do. Yes. Uh, it's in my growth zone, not in my comfort zone for sure to yeah. So that's what I feel is like what yeah. I mean, I I I just say to myself, well, just check because you don't keep track of your time off. That's not something you think about. So but I would know it will say you have plenty of time. And I don't actually need to leave with a bunch of time off. Like, but I do feel like once I give notice on the 15th, um, it would be nice if some of that time could be paid time off. Like my job doesn't have, I think I have to give a month's notice, which is strange, but that is how it's set up. So I will have plenty of time to clear stuff up. And I think it's crazy that they act like that so you can train the next person in, but they may hire this woman, Alyssa, for my job. And so I will actually be able to train her in before I go. So they may be a smart thing if they have someone internally they want to just shift over to my job. In fact, they probably will see it as a huge gift because she's floundering in her current situation. So, and she's not the
Cool.
first person. Hmm.
So we have one clear
Yep.
action step, which
Yep.
is
Clear out some time off. Hmm.
to take some time off, and you'll be sending a mail for that.
Yep.
The next thing that we would need to discuss is what would you do during that time? How will you utilize that time?
Hmm.
And how will you set about getting a job that you would like to have?
Hmm. Um, so one concrete thing I do when I use this uh, group co-working, you put your name, your city, and what you're working on. And then every time I just put job search, just to remind myself, whatever I'm doing, it's in service of the job search. So I think my answer to you is like, instead of putting time off on my calendar, I put job search. So anything I do is in service of that transition. I think that is um, what I will do. I think I will do the same things, reaching out to people, making connections, and seeing that as like maybe it's not the next job, but it's the next job after that. So just thinking more long term. This is toward, career transition, my next phase of my life. However, uh, so I don't see that I'll do anything other than what I would, the things I've been making time for. Um, it's going
So
to be
Linda, what was, sorry,
Yeah. No, no,
sorry.
no, no. I just have to remind myself the training I'm going to do on April whatever is actually in good shape. I don't need to, it's beautifully designed. It's set to go. Go ahead.
So where I was headed at
Yeah,
was when you talk about, say, job search, you said that you will say that that's the top priority.
right.
I was thinking more in lines of suppose you look at job search as a project, and whenever you do any project for either at work or with Lean,
Mm-hmm.
you will typically have a project plan for that. That
Mm-hmm.
this will be the first step, this will be the second. Say, for example, and I'm just throwing up an idea.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
first could be that I need to get my resume completely up to date,
Check. Done.
my
Mm-hmm.
profile thing. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm
Yeah.
saying
Interview prep
if you were to,
questions.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to look at a project plan like that,
Mm-hmm.
how about preparing that list?
Yeah.
Yes, some of them could already be checked, some of them could be work in progress, some of them would need to be looked at.
Mm,
But is
mm-hmm,
it possible to prepare a list of steps which
mm-hmm.
would make the project plan?
Yeah, it definitely is possible. Yeah. Yeah, and that's basically what I started on the wall was these are my strategies. Um, yeah.
If I
Yes.
may,
Yeah.
there's a slight difference
Yep.
between what you have on the wall,
Yep.
uh, at least what I remember you
Yep. Yep.
reading it out because I can't see it,
Yes.
uh, and a plan.
Mm-hmm.
What you have talked about over there are things like you should not get into panic mode. And
Mm-hmm.
these are goals, what you should
Mm-hmm.
possibly, the space
Mm-hmm.
that you need to be in
Right.
and what you need to avoid.
Right.
In a plan, we'll possibly be looking at specific task lists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, if we just take that most nebulous one is like when I'm working on the job search and I find myself in the panic zone, take time to meditate. So try not to, because if I just try to push through, it's just going to be wasted time.
Perfect.
So, uh, yeah. And then the second one, make it fun, like make videos. So send these videos that Ben suggested. Like he's like, do it. Make videos. Send a video with your job application. People, if they don't ask for it, send it anyway. So that would be, make a list of things that make it fun. Like I didn't, I asked somebody for a favor yesterday and I didn't include this. So add that, add that extra stuff. Add the photo that they don't want. Add that. Just go for it. Like let them screen you out because you're like too much for them or whatever. Like, yeah,
So maybe with your permission, in the next, we are coming to the close of
yeah,
the hour.
yeah,
We could, the next time that we meet
yep,
up, specifically talk about that action plan.
absolutely. Yep. I can share my screen and show you my action plan.
Perfect.
Cool.
And would look at how you feel about it. Does it tick all the boxes? Are there any stuff that could be
Mm-hmm,
missing? How
mm-hmm.
do you feel about going about it?
Yep,
We could look at all that.
that's great. And I certainly can also put on my action plan, share with my team, um, and they can give their input. Sounds good. Yeah, I think that would be great.
Cool. How do you feel about our discussion, Linda?
I feel like it was a 5 because I love that you do something that I'm going to get better at doing, which is asking people, so you model that really well. And and I have a lifetime of people saying, let go of this stuff at Hennepin County. Like when I took some time off, they're like, you don't have to go to this conference. And it's like, no, no, I have to go. You don't have to go. So I feel like it's in a line where other people have been able to help me say, for you to stop identifying with this job, you're going to have to practice, like acting like this person like that, going back to that conflict of acting like the person who's not as dedicated to the job. So yeah, so I feel very good about you kind of clearing out some space between me and my soon to be former job.
Yeah. Any insights that you have had about yourself?
I feel like I have a lifetime of of people saying you've gotten as far as you can by yourself. You need outside perspective. It's really great that you don't rely on other people in general for, you don't, that's not your point of reference, but there's a price you pay for not listening to other people. And partly that what you heard me say is when I don't respect people's who they are, then I easily don't listen to what they have to say. So, um, uh, putting myself in situations with people who I respect is going to be key for my being able to move forward with anything that I care about. And I don't have the skills to pretend I respect people when I don't, even though it would be good to develop them. But just to be honest, I don't have those skills.
Great.
It's a failing on my part. But people like that. People like to hear your weaknesses. So
Thank you. Thanks a
yeah,
lot, Linda, for sharing all this, and I hope
yeah,
it's been
and
useful and
yeah. And
looking.
is the lion on your wall one that you took? I think it's on your website, but is it all your photos on your behind you?
Those are all my photographs. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
all
you.
right. Well, thank you very much. I will look forward to sharing my action plan. Do you mind if I share it in advance, or do you want to wait till we meet?
Oh, no, no, you can share it in advance. Perfectly
Okay,
fine. Feel free
awesome.
to do that. Okay.
Thank you so much. Till next
My
time.
pleasure. Till
Mhm.
next time. See you.
Bye.